You are. Well, let's get this party started. Welcome to the smartest people in the room. We are so glad you are here with us, and just by showing up today, you are already demonstrating your very own smarts. Today, I am pleased to feature two of the most inspiring, energetic, and coolest guests I've ever met. I promise you will leave today thinking, wow, who knew? And you'll also leave smarter and more inspired than you arrived. Before we get started, please let me take care of some business. First, to the audience, please feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat window. The reason we do these events is twofold. First, I always love to showcase really smart people and the amazing work they do day to day in the music industry. But the second reason is a bit more nuanced. Many of you know that I am a music industry headhunter. I run the music practice at Turnkey ZRG, and I place music executives in roles throughout the industry. So by definition and function, I help people connect with companies. In this series, my goal is to help you make more connections, and I invite you to take full advantage of that opportunity. Specifically, I invite you to engage with the speakers and the other attendees in the chat of the Zoom. Please introduce yourselves, share your LinkedIn profile, say hello to your friends, and please make some new ones. And ask questions of our speakers. We will try to address as many of those as possible along the way. And please make sure your chat is set to address everyone, not just the speakers. I want to thank our program sponsors, for without their support, we could not keep this series free. I want a special thanks to First Horizon Bank, Turnkey ZRG, the Tennessee Entertainment Commission, MedJet, Tennessee Brew Works, Project Music, and Cushmaster's brand of CBD products. So let's get down to business. In today's host seat, we welcome Marq Burnett. Marq is a former sports writer turned business reporter. He's currently an associate editor of national content for American City Business Journals. He previously worked as the entertainment reporter for the Nashville Business Journal, where he broke news and wrote thoughtful, informative stories about the city's business community. Marq moved to Nashville from Tuscaloosa, Alabama in May of 2019, can't talk today, guys, after a decade of covering the University of Alabama's athletic programs. Roll Tide and welcome, Marq. So glad to have you with us.
Roll Tide, Tom.
And joining Marq as today's featured guest is one of my close friends and heroes in the music industry, Marcie Allen. She leverages her 25 years of music industry experience to negotiate high-level partnerships between the world's leading brands and artists. Marcie has brokered and executed multifaceted programs on behalf of brands including Sony, Southwest Airlines, YouTube, Microsoft, Verizon, Citi, Samsung, Capital One, Delta, Adidas, Hollister, AT&T, as well artists including Chance the Rapper, Rolling Stones, Khalid, John Mayer, Lady Antebellum, Billy Joel, Kelsey Ballerini, John Legend, Imagine Dragons, Travis Scott, and Keith Urban, among others. She's booked all of the acts for the two-day at-live concerts at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, benefiting the Johnny Mac Soldiers Fund. She's been nominated as a finalist for Billboard's Concert Marketing and Promotion Award 15 times and has won 8 times. Marcie has been named to Billboard's Women in Music list every year since 2010. She was included in Billboard's Power 100 list in 2018, Branding Power Players list in 2016 to 19, and being named a Master of Branding in 2019. She was selected to Billboard's Hip Hop Power list in 2017 and 18, honored on the publication's 40 Under 40 list in 2013, and has received Billboard's Humanitarian Award. Variety has selected Marcie to its 2015 and 2018 Power of Women New York Impact list, representing the most powerful women in entertainment. I can go on and on and on with more of her awards and industry recognition, but please let me wrap up her bio by simply saying this. She is truly a force of nature who outworks anyone else in the industry. She tirelessly advocates for her fellow women in this business, and what she did during to pivot during the pandemic is nothing short of superhuman. I will let Marq lead us through those topics in just a moment. Please take it away, Marq and Marcie.
Well, thank you so much, Tom. Tom, just a heads up, looks like people are saying the chat is disabled, FYI.
Oh, thank you. I will turn it on.
Okay, thank you. Well, so happy to be here. First of all, thank you, Tom, for having the both of us, and also thank Marcie for thinking of me. You've been a great help to my career and my time in Nashville. So happy to be here with you.
I love it. I couldn't think of anyone better to interview me today.
Well,
We always have fun, Marq.
yeah, we definitely do. Well, to kind of start us off, I know a little bit of your backstory, but one of the things I've always admired about you is your entrepreneurial spirit. But I would love if you could give the audience sort of a high level view of where you got that from, whether it be a parent, a teacher. Where did that entrepreneurial spirit come from?
I think the entrepreneurial spirit came from the fact that there wasn't a lot of opportunities for women.
Mhm.
And I had to kind of make my own path. I think when you're making $19,000 a year as an assistant at William Morris, you realize in the year 1997 that you don't really have anything to lose. So in 1999, I ventured out and started my first company, Mad Booking and Events, in my dining room in my house in Green Hills. So no, I think that there's a lot of people out there that say, oh, I knew that I wanted to start my own company when I was 5 years old. I did not. I just knew that I wanted to have all the same opportunities that men have in the music industry. And unfortunately, that wasn't always given to me. So therefore, I just had to do it myself.
And as Tom said, you've obviously had an illustrious career. I mean, you've done a lot of fantastic things, touched a lot of lives, and been a part of a lot of awesome moments. What are some of the highlights for you? What do you kind of look back on and think, wow, I can't wait to tell, my friends and family about, my grandkids about, whatever it may be?
You know what? I'm going to say something pretty shocking. I'm going to say that what I'm the most proud of in my 27-year career is how I didn't absolutely lose my mind during the pandemic.
Yeah.
In the entire, and I say that with love because I know some people who did lose their minds.
Mhm.
And we all had to stick together and, in that long description that Tom just did of all the awards and things, he forgot the most important thing. I was a waitress during the pandemic. And I say that, yes, I own Ainsley Blue, a restaurant that my husband and I opened up December of 2019. But, there's so many stories out there about what people did during the pandemic. And I feel like we haven't really heard a lot of stories from people in the music industry. Obviously, record labels and publishers were doing great, but the live events business came to a screeching halt. And I sat at home one day and then I was like, I can't do this. And so I started working at the restaurant. And that was, Marq, where you used to come see me. I worked 7 days a week from March of 2020 until September of 2020, when I finally realized, okay, I can't just hide and live at this restaurant all the time. And then there was just nothing to do in the music industry. And it was really just a surreal moment after having grown up and spent my entire career in the entertainment industry, just to see how everything was just dead. I don't know how else to say it. I always said that when Billy Joel canceled the show at Madison Square Garden, that's when I knew that the whole concert business was going to end for the unforeseeable future.
Yeah.
And that's when I just said, you know what? I'm going to pivot and I'm going to do something to keep my mind going and stay connected to the community. And that's when I became a waitress.
Well, I remember when you first told me about the idea for Ainsley Blue, you told me it was a coffee shop, CBD, and it started as a small shop, but to see what it's kind of grown into, a full-fledged restaurant. You do a lot of events there. You do a lot of catering as well. You have Chef Star there. There's a lot of touch points there, but I would love for you to kind of give some of your backstory, why you wanted to start it, and the partnership with Chef Star right now.
No, absolutely. My husband and I really just created it as a side hustle. I literally couldn't sleep when I turned the age of 40, like I think so many women have experienced. So I've been taking CBD, and my husband was like, we should create our own CBD line. So January of 2019, we created Ainsley Blue, which was named after my dog Blue and my best friend's dog Ainsley. And we were going to open up a CBD retail store, little 700 square foot location in Belmead and Stanford Square. And it wasn't going to be a heavy lift. We were going to have like 2 employees. And, when I came home from New York on the weekends, and I was going to blow in and say hi to people. And then the next thing you know, 3 months later, the tornado hit. Marq, you remember when all the craziness, when Nashville shut down. And then a couple days later, the pandemic forced all non-essential businesses to close, which would have been Ainsley Blue. So at that moment, because I realized we're a CBD retail store and not essential, you had to be a restaurant, I decided overnight to turn us into a coffee shop. So I went and bought a George Foreman grill and a Keurig and called ourselves a coffee shop. And that's how we got started. And then a year later, connected with Chef Star, who is from a small town in Alabama. And I was looking to hire an executive chef. And she said, "What about me?" And I said, "What about you?" I said, "You've been cooking for 20 years. Why haven't you ever been an executive chef?" And she said, "Because only men are in those roles." And it was at that moment that we created that unbelievable connection between the two of us, where we realized here are, I mean, she's in her 40s, you know, I'm in my late 40s, soon to be 50. And hey, you know what? I wear that badge proudly. But it was, I don't know. I always say you either, as women, you either connect instantly, or I feel like, okay, I'm just going to be an acquaintance with that woman. And Chef Star and I just connected instantly. And we are on a mission and to really take her to places that Black women have never been able to go. I mean, one of the things that is so fascinating about, as I dug deeper into James Beard Foundation and just everything that's going on in the hospitality industry, how, you know, less than 10% of women are in executive levels with hospitality companies. I mean, that's shocking. I mean, Chef Star is the only Black queer female executive chef in all of Nashville. That's a problem. You know, and so I've always been passionate about supporting women, and this just continued on with Chef Star and Ainsley Blue. Our staff at Ainsley Blue is almost 90% female.
I'm looking at the chat here. I see Kate Davis says she loves Ainsley Blue, and I will tell anyone, if you haven't been to Ainsley Blue yet, you should definitely get over there. Chef Star has this buffalo wing cauliflower dish to die for, and she's just a fantastic person. She has great energy. I see her profile really growing from the city. She's doing things in the community as well, and people are really embracing her. And one of the things I want to talk to you about is sort of being an ally, you know, obviously for women, but also for Black people, the LGBT community as well. Why has that been such an important part of your mission as you've had your own success and now sort of elevating other people to have a good platform as well?
You know, it's interesting. People ask me that all the time. It's very rare that you find a Southern Belle debutante sorority girl that's favorite music is hip hop, but it always has been my whole life. And I think that really comes back to my upbringing. You know, a lot of people maybe don't realize that I'm a Nashville native. Yes, I actually went to school in Nashville. I actually grew up in Nashville, just because I lived in New York for 12 years until the pandemic when I relocated back to Nashville. What I love about kind of my upbringing is that my grandfather, Hoss Allen, who is a famous DJ at WLAC, he was the very first white DJ to ever play Black music on a Clear Channel station. And I always remembered that. And I remembered him talking about all the hate mail that he got and how people just were not ready for that. And it just resonated with me in a way that I can't even put into words. And so when he passed away in 1997, I mean, I remember at his funeral saying to myself, I'm going to always do everything I can to make sure it's a level playing field for all people, for women, for anybody. I mean, it just drives me insane when a woman will be speaking on a Zoom call or at a conference room table and someone interrupts her. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like, let her speak. And I think now more than ever, all people are finding their voice. You know, the pandemic was the great reset. And as we come out of the pandemic and look at how women's rights are being stripped away across the country, I'm not going to sit silent. You know, I'm going to make sure that female executive assistant is heard in a boardroom. I don't care that she's 21 years old. If she has an idea, that's great. I mean, I'm finally to the age where I don't have to say I've been doing this for 10 years. I remember it was such a big deal when I could finally say in a meeting, well, I've been in the industry for 10 years, because I felt like that therefore people were going to listen to me. I can tell you right now, after 27 years, sometimes I have to raise my voice just a little. because people are acting like they don't hear me.
Well, I mean, piggybacking off that, I would love to get some advice that you have for young women trying to find their voice, find their footing in whatever industry it may be. What would you offer to them in terms of advice?
Speak up. I mean, that's what you have to do. You have to literally speak up. And I think too that now it used to be that women, especially like, I mean, I look back when I started at Cellar Door Concerts, working for Dave Williams and Jack Boyle in the 90s. You know, Connie Wright, who was the office manager and talent buyer. I mean, that was the thing. I mean, really, most women were in supporting roles. I was an assistant at the time, and then worked my way up to director of marketing. But I remember Connie saying to me one time, listen, when someone shushes you, when someone says they don't value your opinion, it makes you speak. You literally have to speak louder. And I think that that's one of the things that women, specifically in the music industry, are starting to do. And also, you're seeing this just unbelievable camaraderie between women in the music industry. You know, one of my favorite lines is Madeleine Albright, there's a special place in hell for women that don't help other women.
That's a great one. Looking at the chat here, I see Dina Fields is saying, hi, Marcie. I see a lot of tribute bands headlining festivals now. Do you see any growth for original music artists, or is that not enough to put, quote, bums in the seat, so to speak?
That's a great question. I think now we're living in the world of freaking TikTok. You know, I mean, you see artists coming forward complaining about labels saying, oh, you need a video that's going to go viral on TikTok. You know, Halsey was commenting about her unhappiness. I think that now the whole industry has changed in the sense that, you know, I could become a TikTok star. Now that's really scary because I can't sing, but you know, I could, I mean, anyone can break. And that's where the record labels and publishers and agents and managers are scouring for their new talent. You know, Tom, you and I were pounding the pavement, going to clubs, you know, like Exit In and Mercy Lounge, you know, looking at, I mean, I still to this day am kicking myself that I didn't see Adele in Nashville when she played Mercy Lounge.
Oh, wow.
Oh, I know. It was when Chasing Pavements was out. And it's one of these things that it's just a different way of music discovery. And I'm not saying that I'm on board with the TikTok phenomenon, but I definitely just think that the industry as a whole has to learn how to adapt, as this is a way that brands can literally measure the success on the programs that they're doing with artists. It's a way that a record label can measure their success on if they're breaking an artist. I mean, you will always hear now, oh, they have 140 million followers or 140 million views on TikTok. You know, it used to always be Facebook and Instagram, and TikTok is definitely the dominant player as far as social media platforms in the entertainment industry.
Erin Crawford from BMI says hi. She says she's a fan of Marcie and Ainsley Blue.
Well, I'm a fan of Erin Crawford. She and I worked together for years at Nielsen, so she is unbelievable.
A question from Gary Manuel in the chat. Are you optimistic about the future income for non-touring artists who rely primarily on streaming with an average payout of 0.004 per stream? He's mostly asking this for artists who are not mainstream pop artists.
Mm-hmm. It's why brand partnerships are so important. You have to look at every possible way that you can generate revenue. Mm-hmm. And I think if there is anything, me included, that the pandemic taught us all is you have to be COVID proof. And I know that sounds so cliche, but it's one of the reasons is I pivoted my entire company, you know, yes, I'm still Mac Presents, but really kind of out there as Marcie Allen, because I wanted to go back to the creativity. When I jumped back into the music business this spring after a 2-year hiatus, it was very important to me that I switch from representing brands to representing different properties and artists. And because I felt like I had lost my creativity. Not that I don't love working with brands, but I don't want to fight with an agency over the color of flowers at an event. You know, I want to be able to come up with a big strategy for my client IMAX or my client Mark Geiger's company Save Live or Audio Up. You know, that's what gets me excited, is really helping to build other people's brands through strategic partnerships.
Well, you touched on Ainsley Blue a good bit, but I know now, you've given some ownership to Chef Star as well. What went into that decision, and what's sort of your role with it today?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how to say it other than to just say it. I didn't have enough bandwidth. So when Chef Star and I sat down, I said, okay, okay, boo. I said, what are we doing here? I said, I got to get back in the music business. It's calling my name. And I said, do we want to sell the restaurant? And she was like, I mean, yeah, eventually. I mean, because I'm sure everyone's seen all these small locally owned restaurants are closing in Nashville. They're losing their leases. Their rent prices are going up. The big conglomerates are moving in. The hotels are bringing in the big chefs. And so we're just going to be the little engine that could. And so I was able to cut a deal with Chef Star to where she got some ownership of Ainsley Blue, and really is the visionary behind it right now. I mean, we just hosted our 16th sold out drag brunch after being named number 10 out of top 25 drag brunches in the US this year by Yelp. So what we've been able to create as far as a safe, inclusive environment for singer-songwriters, we just cut a deal with Blair School of Music. So their students will be performing jazz brunch for us on the weekends. We have all different types of diverse artists that play Ainsley Blue. And the biggest thing that we did, Marq, which was a big pill to swallow, but we decided to close Monday through Wednesday. And the reason we did that is because we want to be able to have, songwriter in the round nights and events and catering. And so we just said, let's just focus on what we do best, which is brunch. So we're open Thursday to Sunday, 9 to 6, and Star and the team there run it. I mean, I'm embarrassed to say I haven't been to Ainsley Blue in like 3 weeks. So I'm really focusing solely on my clients, and I've got an amazing team of 4, and we kind of bounce back between working out of Soho House and my house in Green Hills. And so I guess you could say I'm back in the dining room where it all started in 1999, and I love it.
That's awesome. I know burnout has become a big topic, especially with COVID,
Yeah.
people sort of pivoting and figuring out what they want out of life. How have you been able to sort of avoid being burnt out and also find that
Oh
inspiration?
no, I got burnout.
Okay, so
I didn't avoid it.
talk
No.
about that then. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I don't know. Wow. Okay. I didn't realize we were going to go to a therapy session. I think the pandemic reset my brain. I really do. I think that finally the noise, the traveling back and forth between Nashville and New York for 10 years every week, teaching at NYU, being a stepmom, being a wife, being a friend, owning a company, doing all the things that I was doing, I was exhausted. I actually had never been so excited to just be a waitress, because the biggest stress that I had that day was someone's coffee right.
Mhm.
And then as time went along, I realized the whole industry was literally changing before my eyes. So I would go home at night and then I would read, Billboard or Variety, Rolling Stone, what's going on in the industry. And I didn't want to book living room concerts on Zoom. Like that was not of interest to me. And so as live events and Billy Joel picked back up, which, I did the Citibank deal years and years ago with him at Madison Square Garden. So once the residency picked back up, I said, okay, well, maybe I'll get back out there and just do something different. I'm a deal maker. I'm a creator. I'm a visionary. I'm a marketer, whatever you want to say. But at the core crepus, I love the art of the deal.
Mhm.
That's what fuels me. So at Ainsley Blue, I was cutting deals with Bumble because they wanted to rent out the place to give free coffee to college students. I mean, and so I couldn't get away from it, Marq. Even though I would go, oh, I'm just a waitress, I was still, making waves in Nashville with the drag brunch. I mean, we just got reamed online when we launched the drag brunch, and
Mhm.
I just doubled down. And what really made me angry was the letters that we were receiving. People were like, well, we know it's not you and Derek that are doing it, it's other people. And I'm like, no. Yes, it was Chef Star's idea, but I 100% believe, and the empty seat that you're telling me that you're never going to fill at Ainsley Blue again will now be filled by someone whose heart is filled with love and not hate. So check you later. These are the things that you have to do as a woman, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner. And I still remember the people that stood up for me when I was in my 20s. And so, we have become so close to the fabulous drag queens, Venus and Jaden and Serena, that we've worked with for 16 months. And we host a sold out drag brunch every month. And I'm so proud of it.
Yeah, it's
But
definitely that. Yeah. So it's
yeah,
definitely one of the hottest tickets in town.
thank you. But it was a struggle, and I think that anyone who says, oh my God, the pandemic was so great for me. For 2 years, I was just with my family and we played Monopoly. I just don't know anyone who experienced that. I had to lay off all my employees summer of 2020, still in a lawsuit with my office up in New York after surrendering the keys. I mean, it was a total, excuse my language, shit show. But you pick yourself up, you dust yourself off, and you realize what's important to you. And that is what my takeaway, and all the struggles that I had with my mental health during the pandemic. It's like when I came out on the other side, I finally realized what was important to me. And that is, there's some friends that I shed, there's some relationships. I'm telling you, I think everyone doesn't even realize that our entire lives shifted beneath us during those 2 years. I remember I was talking to you, Marq. You had gone back down to Alabama, and it was like people, if they wanted to see me, they came to Ainsey Blue. And that's why Ainsey Blue became such an oasis for people, because it was an escape. It was just normalcy out there. We didn't do anything to talk about the pandemic. When you came into Ainsey Blue, there was smiles and music and people performing. And I mean, we were just like, come in here and just forget all the craziness that's going on in the world and just have a little bit of an escape. People were coming and working out of there, bringing their laptops. I mean, I've had multiple people tell me Ainsey Blue saved me during the pandemic because it was a place that I could go to and see familiar faces and get out of the four walls of my house or apartment.
Yeah, no, I think it's very important for people to speak openly about, being burnt out and their mental health struggles during the pandemic. So I appreciate you for sharing that.
Of course.
Ariana Vogler, looks like, apologies if I mispronounced that, wants to know how you managed to keep Marq Presents running during the pandemic when there was a halt in the live music scene. And I would also, just piggybacking off that, what were some of the creative ideas that came to you during the pandemic?
Well, Marq Presents wasn't running during the pandemic. I mean, I was doing like a one-off deal here and there, but I had no employees. I did not rehire employees till a year and a half later. And so that was very difficult for me. I mean, that was one of the hardest days of my life, was letting my employees go after my PPP ran out. And it was horrendous, but I'm so happy and proud of all of them. I had dinner with one of them a week ago, and they're just doing unbelievable now. But it's, you have to make those hard decisions. And, it's not that there was a reduction in work during the pandemic, is that there was zero live events. And so I tried every which way I could to keep it still going until probably the end of July of 2020. And then that's when I just said, you know what, this is not going to happen for a while. And that's when I just kind of hit pause. And then earlier this year decided to pick back up, and that's where I am today. And it's been unbelievable. And I think that probably the biggest creative thing that I was able to take, like my takeaway from the pandemic, was that partnerships need to be more meaningful. I'm trying really hard. Like, I'm very excited about a deal that we can't announce yet, because I'm actually why I'm in San Francisco, but we're getting ready to announce a deal with I can't even say it because then you'll know who the company is, but with a company that's about giving back, and they're giving back millions of dollars to all of us to help us. And again, I can't say anything because then I'll literally say what the deal is, but I'm just trying to have much more thoughtful deals that are meaningful, that resonate. And I think that one of the things too that was a big thing is that I needed to learn to slow down. I needed to slow down and understand that less is more. And it's not about closing 100 deals every year. It's really just about closing meaningful deals. And that's what I tell all my clients. If you're hiring me to close 1,000 different deals for you, then I'm not the right person for you. Let's be very thoughtful What is it that you're using the dollars for? You know, what are you trying to give back to? And then go from there.
How do you find inspiration these days?
How do I find inspiration? I would have to say my NYU students, and I had to take this year off because obviously I was back in Nashville, but I'm going to be going back to teaching at NYU next year, Steinhardt. I think Larry Miller I don't know if he's still on, Tom, but he had jumped on earlier, but he came and met with me earlier this year. And so I'm going to, instead of teaching every week, I'll be teaching just once a month up in New York. But I'm very excited to get back because I mean, as a teacher for the past 9 years, I get my inspiration from my kids. And I know they get mad when I call them kids because I know they're not kids, but they're my kids. And I love this generation and learning from them and seeing what's important to them and what moves them.
Larry just checked in the chat, said, "Oh yes, you will. Can't wait till Marcie's return to
Oh, he is there. Hey, Larry.
Well, I know I'm a professor as well, and that's one of the reasons why
I
I do
know.
to kind of keep my skills fresh and always stay connected to the youth. How has that sort of kept you energized throughout your career as you've been doing that?
It's changed my life. I mean, thank you, Larry, for letting me take my whole class to my show at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. I flew my class down to the show when Luke Combs and Eric Church and Keith Urban and Sam Hunt performed and Blake Shelton for the event November of 2019. And it was just unbelievable because I love seeing students experience things for the first time. Like everyone's been to a concert, but very few people have been behind the scenes, backstage at a stadium show, especially a 2-day festival that we built from the ground up. And so being able to experience that with them, and especially since I used to live in Atlanta and owned a festival down there on the Bricks, I was able to take them down my memory lane, taking them to Centennial Olympic Park where I hosted on the Bricks. And then having different people come in, like Jeff Dixon, who's Ludacris's manager, and Tara Murphy, who's a publicist down there, all came and spoke to the students. And that's what excites me, is being able to bring experiences to the next generation of leaders in the industry.
Who are some of your mentors and people you lean on for advice or just words of wisdom?
My Aunt Bibi. My Aunt Bibi Evans has been in the music industry for 40 plus years and managed Charlie Daniels' band until he passed away. And so we speak every day. And she, she's the one that gave me the opportunity to be an intern at Cellar Door Concerts Live Nation, summer of 1995. And she's the one that to this day that I call when I'm having a meltdown over something, whatever. But I will tell you that she's the one that really taught me that it's okay to reinvent yourself. It's okay to pivot. It's okay to fail. One of my favorite lines is, fail forward. But she really taught me when I was sad that there was no live events going on during the pandemic, I would call her and I would say, okay, my career's over. And she's like, no, your career's not over. It's just going to look different. And you have to be okay with that. And I think that, especially as I'm creeping up again to the age of 50, as a woman, there's not a lot of opportunities for women that are in their 50s and 60s in the music industry. And so I wanted to, again, make sure that I'm breaking that glass ceiling along with all the other women that are alongside me. I mean, and that's what I'm so proud of, is all these female executives in the music industry. While they might not own their own company, they're leading these companies and making decisions for more inclusivity and giving women and people of color voices in the boardroom and in the C-suite.
BB Evans says, "Hey, Marcie."
Oh, I didn't know you were here.
That's awesome.
Well, that's my aunt. That's who I was talking about. And she inspires me every day.
That's awesome. You've talked a lot about pivoting and being open to, having a different path as opposed to just being so locked in. What advice would you give to young people trying to make a break into the music industry, considering that it's very different from when you started?
It's this, I mean, I've been saying this for 5 years to my NYU students, to my class. Like now, if you want to be an entrepreneur, now is the time. You know, one of the things that is so inspiring is seeing my NYU students go out into the workforce and succeed. And if there's never a better time to start a company than right now, because there's no rules. And I want everyone to hear me. Anyone who tells you, listen to me, in the music industry, well, that's not the way that it's done, you need to go ahead and give them a one-way ticket to nowhere. Because the whole music industry has changed coming out of the pandemic. There's no rules. So when I'm on calls now with clients, with artist managers, with agents, with labels, whoever it is I'm talking to, I'm like, why don't we come up with something crazy? Let's do this. And they're like, let's do it. And it's an exciting time to be in the industry. You know, it was not an exciting time to be in the industry during the pandemic. And that's why I stepped out. But now I've stepped back in, and I am so energized and so excited. And I just think that, you know, I read an article this morning about the top brand partnership deals with artists for 2022. And from summer of 2021 to summer of 2022, $52 billion worth of deals were done. Now, understand that includes media buys and award shows and a lot of other things, not just straight brand partnerships, but $52 billion. That is unbelievable. And by the way, you got to realize this was still summer of 2021. We were still in the middle of the pandemic. Yeah. Now we were starting to come out of it, but we were still in the middle of the pandemic. I didn't go to my first show, which of course I ended up getting COVID at, until July of 2021, when I went to Dave Matthews in North Carolina. And by the way, cried like a 5-year-old because I missed concerts so much. I could not stop crying because you don't even realize how powerful music is. And when you hadn't seen a live concert other than like a cover band at, what is that place? Oh my God, I'm having a brain fart. That it's a tiki bar in Florida Keys, where my husband and I have a house, and and literally a cover band was playing Red Hot Chili Peppers. And my husband teared up. Summer of 2020, because he's like, I haven't heard a live band. And it's the same thing that I experienced when I went to, thank you, baby, Island Fish Company. I was like having a brain fart. And like, that's what I'm talking about. Like, and really that concert, that Dave Matthews concert, July of 2021, showed me you've got to get back into the music business. But I didn't want to get back in the fall. So I kind of just waited till after the holiday, because everyone knows no one in the music industry works December and through mid-January. And so I just kind of dove back in at the beginning of this year, and here I am.
Well, Chelsea Orr in the chat says, how do you recognize when it's time to reevaluate and switch up your roles or priorities?
When it's not working.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the thing. When you're beating your head against the wall, trying to push that square peg through a round hole day in and day out, which is what I was doing summer of 2020, when I was trying to be a waitress and trying to figure out and drum up some business for Marq. That's when I finally just said, I need to stop. Like, you have to know when to stop, and you have to know when to step away. And I probably waited a month too long. But I was very lucky to get PPP, and so was able to continue to pay the team until that ran out. But it takes a lot of years of experience in order to figure out when to step away, Marq. Hello, Tom Brady. You got to learn to know when you just step away, because otherwise you end up blowing up everything: your friends, your family, your relationships.
Not to get too inside baseball here, but I'd love to pick your brain a little bit on how Marcie Allen approaches a deal.
Well, it depends on, first of all, who I'm working on behalf of. So for anyone who knows me, I am the biggest news hound, 100%. In another life, I worked for the FBI. Like, I love to figure out cases. So when I'm doing a brand deal, I kind of look at it the same way, in the sense that I have to know everything. I have to literally wrap my arms around the artist, the brand, or the festival, or the venue, or whatever it is that I'm selling for or on behalf of. And then I have to find that story. So I remember having a conversation with a brand once where an artist had turned down a $2 million shoe deal. That's a lot of money for me. That's a lot of money for the artist. It really upset me when this deal went away, but I will never forget what the artist, who was so young at the time, said to me. He's like, Marcie, I don't like the shoes. I don't like the shoes. I'm never going to wear them. And that's when I said, you know what? I realized I had made a mistake, that I needed to stop pushing, that there was not an authentic connection. And so, and this was probably like 5-6 years ago. And that's when I really said, okay, so now I take a different approach where it's like, listen, we're not curing cancer here. We're literally doing a brand partnership deal. So if either side is not happy or not willing to come to the table, let's just stop, just walk away, and rule number one in negotiation, you cannot negotiate unless you're willing to walk away. And so when you walk away from a deal and it doesn't come back, guess what? It was never supposed to happen. So you're really lucky that person walked away, because otherwise you just would have had a shitty deal that you would have had to work on for the next 3 to 6 months.
I know we talked a lot about your career, but what has you most excited personally in your everyday life?
Again, this is going to sound so cliche. I am loving reconnecting with all these people that I didn't see during the pandemic. I was so lucky to live in New York for 12 years. You saw everyone in the industry. Not that there aren't a ton of people in Nashville, but I missed all my friends in New York. Well, now a lot of them have left and have moved to Los Angeles and Nashville. But that's what I have loved. I mean, I'm going to New York and LA probably every 6 weeks right now for work, and just reconnecting with people. I'm in San Francisco right now. I was able to have dinner with Andrew Hamp, my former colleague at Mac, and who's now at Variety. And it was just so exciting to catch up and see people. That's what has me excited right now.
Another question from Ariana here. What kind of traits do you look out for in the people that you do business with in the music industry? And are there any tidbits of advice that you can share on small things to look out for, good or bad?
Yeah, I don't do business with mean people.
Mm-hmm.
That's literally been my motto for years. When someone starts being that way on the phone, I'm just like, you know what? It is not worth it. Yeah, right, Kate? I mean, I have 0 F's to give and no time. So like if I get on the phone with someone, especially someone who's trying to hire me to help sell brand partnerships for whatever it is, and they start being condescending, it's like, you know what? I don't have the bandwidth. That's my new favorite line. I don't have the bandwidth right now. And they're like, what does that mean? I'm like, it means I'm not going to be working with you. Like, it's just, life is too short. Okay. We have to be nice to one another. We have to. And I know it sounds so simple, but trust me when I tell you, men and women sometimes forget this in the entertainment industry.
Kevin Klagler here says, how do you organize your time and prioritize with so many different endeavors in so many different cities?
It's really hard. And I do have a lot of breakdowns. I do. I think, Kate, if you called me the other day, you caught me on one. It's a lot, but I do it because I love it. I always said to myself because I got in this industry when I was 21, if I woke up one morning and like I had to get up this morning at 5 a.m. I had a Zoom call at 7 o'clock. I didn't want to look like a total hot mess, but of course I still did because there was not much I could do. But you have to be passionate about what you're doing. And if you're not, that's when you know you have to pivot and you have to do something else. I mean, Mark, it's like, I remember when you first moved up here and you and I were talking and you were like, yeah, I mean, I was writing about football and now I'm coming up here and trying to figure out, I mean, I remember you said this to me, you go, I'm a Black man from Alabama moving up here trying to write about country music. And I about died. I was like, oh my God, this is great. Because I'm like, you're gonna need a freaking roadmap to figure out Nashville, Tennessee in the music industry. But yeah, I mean, I think that, you found what you were passionate about, which was writing. And then look, I mean, God, in like such a short time, you were able to become an executive at the holding company for the Nashville Business Journal. And I mean, I love seeing everything that you've achieved and what you've been able to do, because, I have to say that there's not a lot of reporters that are in my inner circle. And I will always help you any way that I can, and have loved being a part of all the amazing stories that you've been able to break over the years.
I mean, I definitely appreciate that. And to echo Dana here, Marcie is a badass. I agree with that 100%. I remember from the first meeting we had over
Oh,
coffee.
Dana's my old assistant. And
Yeah.
okay,
Oh, okay.
Dana is just rocking now. I don't know if, has she announced it? I don't know. Have you announced that where you're working now, Dana? I just don't know if I'm allowed to. Okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
She is freaking went to Europe to learn how to be a DJ producer, or excuse me, a DJ and a music producer, because only 2% of music producers in the industry are female. And I'm just so proud of everything that she's been able to achieve. And I think that's it too. It's like, when you're working with someone, and this did not happen with Dana, but when you're working with someone and all of a sudden that you are not happy in a situation, you talk about it, and that's the thing. Like, people would be like, don't use your line if you're not happy, but it's true. Again, we're not curing cancer. It's freaking sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Like, if you're not happy in a situation, change it. So when my friends, men, women, whoever, call me in the industry and say they're not happy with something, I'm like, well, then switch jobs. And they're like, well, no, I mean, I can't do that. I'm like, why? Or when they call me and say, oh, well, my boss took all my ideas, I'm doing all this, I'm like, well, then start your own company. Oh, I can't do that. Well, why? Why can't you? You're telling me you're making crap money already, that you're working around the clock. So go make crap money working out of your house and build something that you're passionate about. I mean, that's what I'm doing. I mean, I got some job offers during the holidays. Don't you like that I say that? That's in my mind. Literally, I was on holiday. It's called positive spin. We were not in a pandemic. I was on holiday. So when I was on holiday for 2 years, working at Ainsley Blue, I knew that I was going to be able to dive back into the industry at some point, but I didn't know what it was going to look like. I didn't know if it was going to be fulfilling to me. And I thought I was going to be bored. And I'm telling you, the second I got back onto it, I mean, I got teary-eyed on a Zoom call. Thank God it was with someone that I knew really well. And they were like, what are you crying? I'm like, I'm just happy to be back. It was like one of those really funny moments where, I think too that people who try to hide their emotions and the things that they've experienced over the past 2 years, it's not going to work out well for them. Let's not try to sugarcoat the dumpster fire we've all been living in. We're coming out of it, hopefully, with the economy, and the music industry is doing well. Or I mean, I guess at least I should say Live Nation's doing well. There's still a lot of small music venues that are struggling, with increased food costs and supply chain issues and gas costs and everything going on. So please continue to go out and support small local music venues, because we don't want to lose those, because we're getting ready to pretty much lose all small local restaurants in Nashville, just because of what's going on. We're turning into Vegas 2.0.
Ariana asks, what is your best piece of advice to get involved in the music business industry here as someone who just moved here? And are there any specific mixers or events that you know of that would be a good use of time?
Yes. I will. Okay, wait, hold on. I think this will go to everybody. Did that go to everybody? Jackie's email? Okay, great. So Jackie works with me. Sorry, Jackie, I think you're on here. She was an agent at William Morris and now is badass and cutting deals. Actually, the deal that I'm out here doing is a deal that she originated, but we just can't say what it is yet. And so Jackie is very, very involved with different networking groups in Nashville, and she knows a lot of them. So I would definitely reach out to her and just say, yes, Dana, she is the music, but just send a note to Jackie and say, hey, Marcie told me to reach out to you. Like the WMBA, Women's Music Business Association. I know she was on the board of that. And I spoke at that actually during the pandemic on their Zoom meetings, but oh yeah, there's Jackie. Hey, everybody. But she's fantastic, and definitely you have to get out there. And that is one thing about working from home that I think is very important that everyone listen to me on. And I'm guilty of it too, because I work from my house. I actually share a desk with my husband. Yes, we're at the same desk with our computers on the same desk. But it's the only place that we can work that we actually can get quiet, away from the rest of the team that works in the office upstairs. But I think too that one of the things about networking is that you can't just be a hermit and stay at home. You have to get out there. I'm not saying you have to do everything, but you have to get out there to the mixers. And music business, the conference that's in Nashville every year in May, is an unbelievable opportunity. IEBA, International Entertainment Buyers Association, is going to be held in Nashville in October. So that's another good one. You have CMA awards with tons of events, tons of free events the week of CMAs, the second week of November. So yes, Tom, it is.
So what's next for Marcie Allen? What has you excited that's on the horizon?
Again, I can't say what the story is exactly, but I'm working on a sports documentary. And that is something that, and it's about an athlete that overcame major adversity. And so we're going to be getting the funding for that film with a brand partnership, and then I'll be involved in it. And that's one of the things that I'm super excited about. And then also, just because I'm such a movie buff, and then also with my IMAX client, Jackie and I have been working on some deals that will include music documentaries. So it's about doing things that are different, that keep you excited and jazzed about this industry. And I think that's one of the things too, is like when we sat down, Jackie and I, and said, okay, we have to COVID proof, our business and our clients. We made sure that, God forbid, we went to another shutdown. That's why we're with podcasts and, live stream companies and all different types of companies. So we aren't ever in a situation, which is the situation I was in spring of 2020, which is my entire business evaporated overnight.
What's the best?
Diversify. Kate is right.
Definitely. What's the best show you've ever been to as a fan? Not working it, just I'm in the stands, I'm just watching.
Oh gosh. Just as a fan, not one that I've done. Okay. Probably one of the Rolling Stones shows with my dad. My dad passed away a few years ago, and I've probably been to 50 plus Rolling Stones concerts. I did the Citibank deal with the tour in 2013, but I still remember my dad taking me to Steel Wheels and Voodoo Lounge and all the different tours. And that was the way that we connected. And that was, our relationship, because I was raised by my grandparents, was my relationship with my dad was all around sports and music and movies. And so for anyone that knows me, they know that those three things are very important to me. And so I've been to Stanley Cups and Super Bowls and All-Star games and World Series with my dad. And those are the kind of things that I cherish, but definitely Rolling Stones. They're they're the best band in the world and always have been.
Trudy Larch wants to know, she says she's an older woman in the music biz for 25 plus years, mostly in NYC, but she finds it hard to be a part of Nashville's Women in Music because most of the members are way younger than her. Any suggestions?
Yeah. I hear you. They're way younger than me. I think you just have to be comfortable in your skin. That's why I'm probably one of few women that will just scream from the mountaintops what their age is. 48, turning 49 in 13 days. I don't care. I wear every heartache, every, challenge that I've experienced through my lifetime as a badge of honor. And I think you just have to lean into it and realize that the younger generation, they want to learn from you. They want to hear your stories. Well, maybe people don't want to hear my stories all the time because I could tell stories for like 15 hours, but everybody else, they want to hear their stories. And I think that I remember back when I was starting off in the music industry and was aspiring to be, a Marcie or some of these unbelievable females that were pioneers in the music industry. And I didn't know how to do it. I was intimidated when speaking to Marcia. And I think that that's something that you have to remember when you're older, like myself, is that this younger generation, they do want to learn from you. They want to hear what you have to say. And especially women, like older women have to foster and cultivate these relationships with the next generation of female leaders. It's very important. I tell the story. I taught for years at NYU Clive Davis. I taught at Steinhardt and Clive Davis, but at Clive Davis, I taught female entrepreneurs in popular music. I had to come up, this is a very sad story. I had to come up with 7 business owners that started and created a company in the music business. 7. I struggled to find 7.
Wow.
There's a lot of women in power in the music industry. There's a lot of women that are making moves and running shit. There are very few women that own their own businesses. And to me, that's a problem. And so that's one of the things that I've always tried to instill with, my NYU, I can't even speak, with my NYU students, is do not be afraid to start your own business. Now is the time, because you don't have anything to lose. You can always go get a job. I mean, that's the thing. It's like I always say, my Aunt Bibi and I will laugh. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go work at a flower shop because I love flowers. And she's like, oh, whatever. She's like, you'll figure it out. You'll pivot to something else. I mean, I guess at this point, I've never really worked at a record label, but that's about the only thing that I've done. Everything else, worked at a promoter, booking agent, and then obviously owned an agency.
A couple fun ones before we get out of here. Who would play Marcie Allen in a movie?
Oh, Cameron Diaz.
Why Cameron?
Because of her spunk and her tenacity. I love her.
Your favorite place to vacation?
Florida Keys.
What do you like about that area?
It was my dad's house that he bought for his forever home, and he never was able to live in it because he got sick and passed away. So I was able, with my husband, who's a general contractor, we renovated the house and created it as our forever home. So I'm able to kind of live out my dad's fantasy. So that makes me very, very happy. That's
awesome. And any TV shows you're watching or books you're reading?
That's funny. I'm obsessed with TV. So yes, I mean, I love all TV shows. Right now I'm loving City on a Hill. Kevin Bacon, who doesn't love him? But Queen's Gambit, The Crown. I'm obsessed with the Royals. I'll be up at 5 a.m. for the Queen's funeral next Monday. I mean, I love shows. I mean, we binge them all the time. And I love anything that's scary or crime. Yes, I saw the Elvis movie. Unbelievable. So good. And I went to college in Memphis. So
Kate Davis says, I think Marcie needs her own podcast to interview women in the music business. I'd agree.
Kate, you got to come run it. Well, I just need Kate to come work with me. That's what I need. I need her. She's so baller.
Well, thank you so much for a wonderful conversation, Marcie. I'm going to turn it back to you now, Tom.
Yes, and I'm going to put my email in here. If anybody wants to reach out to me, please feel free. And just thank you so much. Tom, I'm sorry I said no to this for 2 years. I just didn't feel like I had anything to talk about because I wasn't working on deals. But I like this because it really it was a raw and real open conversation. And I probably would not have felt comfortable doing it with anyone other than Marq Burnett. Just because, again, we've all been living in a dumpster fire, but we're crawling our way out, and I'm dusting myself off and ready for the future.
Well, I'm so glad you finally accepted my invite. And yes, to the audience, I did invite her 20 times, maybe. I don't know, a lot. I promised at the top of the show you'd leave more inspired than you arrived. And I would have to say that Marq and Marcie delivered on that promise. So thank you to you both. We just so are thankful and grateful that you've stopped by today to share some of your wisdom and your thoughts, your inspiration. Women, you've got a North Star here, so follow her. Take up the opportunity to engage with her and to try to work with her because she gets shit done. Folks, come back next Thursday at the same time. With that said, be nice to each other, as Marcie
Oh, will
said.
you send them? They want my email. Will you send them my email, Tom?
Yeah, I thought you posted it. You
I
must
think it
not have.
just went to hosts and panelists. I'm sorry, I'm tech challenged.
No problem. Let me find that in
Mark's laughing because he
here.
knows. I just graduated from the flip phone during the pandemic. Okay, so
All right, here it comes, folks. With that, folks, I'm going to sign off. It's Marcie at macpresents.com.
I had to say hi to Zach, my former student.
Thanks again, folks. Take care. Be nice.
Thank you.